Welcome to the Srsly Podcast. I'm your host, Annaliese Gann. Now let's get into it. Welcome to the Srsly Podcast, where we make light of serious conversations with really interesting people. Heidi Anderson is a former radio host on the Heidi, Will and Woody show on Triple M's 92.9. She's also an author, PR queen, and Big Brother star. Heidi has built her life to what it is today through years of hard work, dedication, and persistence. And I respect this a lot, as working in the media isn't for the faint of heart. I'm excited for you to hear this chat with a truly iconic woman, someone who has done a lot in life and has many talents. Here's my chat with a vivacious Heidi. Welcome back to the Srsly Podcast. This week we have Heidi Anderson.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm so excited that you're here.
Yeah. Do you know what? I love that you sent the email before, and I think you've asked me like 3 or 4 times. So is there any questions you don't want to say? And I'm like, fuck, what is she going to ask? Like, it's like you're prepping me. Like, are you sure? Are you sure? So I'm ready.
No, but you said you're pretty much an open book. I mean, that comes from working on radio for years.
Yeah.
Commercial radio at that.
Yeah. But I'm like, do you have skeletons in my closet that I haven't revealed yet that you're ready to like drop now?
I don't.
Okay, good.
But as I was saying, you were on radio for a long time and you're known for many things in the media, but commercial radio sticks out for me, and that's how I know you and the Australian public came to love you. Can you tell me a bit about your radio journey?
Yeah.
And how it all started?
Well, I used to sit at home probably like most kids and pretend they were on the radio. You know, with your kid, you know, with your friends, and you'd have like your tape recorder, showing my age, and, you know, you'd record yourself. And I was like, I just had this passion for talking and being on air. And then it was when I was at uni in Bathurst. So I grew up in Bathurst in New South Wales. I was studying public relations at uni, and I'd been pissed most nights of the week, and I was working at the local pub, and one of the people from the radio station came in and they said, have you thought about being on radio? Like, you have a great voice and a great vibe. Meanwhile, I was like, 20 darts a day, like smoking, and I had this real husky voice. And so I was quite, and I ended up going down and working at the radio station and did mornings there for free for years while I was at uni. And that's where my love of radio really, came into fruition. They then employed a girl when I left uni, and I was devastated. And I was like, oh my God, they didn't ask the girl who'd been slaving away for 3 years at uni, like doing shit for free. And I was like, my shit don't stink. I would be so good on the radio. And then it was a moment for me that I was like, oh my God, I didn't get the job. You're heartbroken. And so I went overseas, and my love never stopped. I used to listen to all the radio shows in the UK and just imagine myself on air. And then when I came back from overseas after 4 years of just some wild times working in PR and events, I was like, I'm going to apply for Australian Film, Television, Radio School, and ended up there, and then went to Bunbury, in Western Australia down the road.
That's where I'm from.
Oh, that's where you're from. Yeah. Well, so I worked on Hot FM there, and got a Hot FM tattoo on my ass. So that was the traditional radio kind of, stuff that you did.
Yeah, I love that.
And then, ended up in Perth and Newcastle, and that's kind of my radio career.
That's amazing, because I know you from the Heidi, Will and Woody show. 92.9.
Yeah, that's probably the most famous show I worked on. Like, so I was on there straight after I came out of Big Brother. And as you can imagine, for 3 people to come together, there was Will and Woods and then me. So 2 best friends and then me. And like, we were just all young, really gunning for it, really wanted not fame, but like to make something of our show. Like, we're all passionate about radio, and to bring that all together with, someone who wanted to change the world, me, and then them who just wanted to tell like fart jokes. Like, it was a hard slog for a few years, but we had a fucking epic show, and we had a lot of respect for each other, and the ratings really showed that, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of heartache though as well. So
they say radio is a very tough industry, like the early mornings, the grueling hours.
And just the egos. And like I said, for working with 2 guys who are best friends who just wanted a show on their own. And now that's what they've done, you know. And
They have done that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what they've always wanted. And I'm never one to stand in some, you know, the way of someone's goals and dreams. So that was always hard, feeling like a little bit like the third wheel, you know.
Especially being a female, and I don't care what people say, like radio's a boys' club.
Oh, mate, you don't even need to fucking tell me that. If I could seriously tell you the shit that goes on behind closed doors and
Like
just
what? Like
from
the misogyny?
from the top. From the top.
Well, do you know, I actually used to work, this is not on your level at all. I actually worked at Hot FM as a receptionist.
Oh, did you? Were you there when I was there?
I feel like I might have been.
Oh, my God. Imagine that.
It was 2014 maybe.
Oh, so I left in 2011.
Okay, no, but I remember seeing you on the billboards and everything.
Yeah.
But I understand that, like, yeah, there's a lot of misogyny. Even I felt that as a receptionist. So I couldn't imagine being at the top level.
Yeah. And, you know, what I found really interesting in radio is they want the women at the forefront because they want them to be like because really, if you look at all the stats and the surveys and all that, I don't know if this is interesting for people, but it's mainly women who listen to radio. So then they want to have this female at the forefront, but then they never want women to be together because they think then it's like bitchy. It's like social conditioning that two women together is like yuck and gross. And so girls won't like it. So they always think that the two boys together is, oh, that's so funny. And then bring a girl in and she'll just laugh at their jokes. And, you know, that's why if you look, most shows are like two guys, one girl.
It is structured like that,
Yeah.
but as a woman, I couldn't think of anything worse.
Mate, I never wanted a threesome. I never wanted to be put on the spit. Like I never wanted that. But it's, you know, and there's so much. I had some fucking incredible bosses, like, and they were men. Yeah. And, you know, they are still some of them my mentors today. Yeah. Like I've had mainly men mentors. Okay. So I'm not ragging on the, you know, the men. Yeah. They're, you know, but for me, there was this big boys club. Yeah. And if you look at it, like I said, out there in radio, you would see most of the shows are two guys, one girl. Yeah. And it just just doesn't make sense.
So what did you love about radio and what did you not like?
I love being here, like in a studio. I love connecting. I love, you know, the greatest feeling that I used to have was when they turned the mics on and people then would call in the show to talk to you, and then you would get these messages afterwards and you're like, Heidi, that talk topic today changed my life and da-da-da-da. Like I loved the impact, the feeling that people had when they listened to your show, whether it was like sadness, happiness, you know, frustration, anger, like, fuck, did they just say that? Like I loved that we invoked feelings in people every single day. Mm-hmm. And so being able to creatively put conversations together and do fun stunts and all that kind of stuff, I loved it. Like there was such a fun vibe about it, but I hated the politics and I hated the way that they condition you to feel like, you know, especially it came from a lot of men in the building, that you had to be a certain way and you had to fit a certain character mold, but please be yourself. Like, you know.
In what way? Like, so did you have to be like the blonde bombshell, like bubbly, like?
I am the blonde bombshell. That's not a character.
Okay, got it.
No, yeah. Like, so, you know, it's like, oh, hi. It's like, that was really good. But, you know, should you have laughed there? Like, and, you know, would we say that? And like, you know, we would get critiqued after especially because we were brand in a big show, big market. There's a lot of money riding on it. You know, everyone's jobs are on the line the first few years of a new show, first year of a show. But when they're building a show up with, you know, you're trying to get the chemistry and this and that, like don't overtalk that person and this, you're constantly critiqued. Yes, majority of the time it's constructive, but it's fucking hard, you know, and then to hear like, but I thought that was genuinely funny. Like that's me. So that's why I laughed there. Like, you know, so you start to get in your head and you start to question yourself. And so it's an interesting game. Yeah. And like you really have to build a strong, you know, resilience. Like you really have, your resilience becomes, you know, so important. You have to be resilient and, you know, to hear these things. And then also like you'll piss your co-host off because, you know, they're trying to tell a story and you came in with a fucking joke, but they were about to land the joke. Like there's stuff like that. And so, you know, that's the kind of the politics and stuff that you end up, we come off air and it's like everyone thinks you're best friends, which everyone thought Heidi, Will and Woody were best friends. But really like we did have like a lot of people loved how we were together as friends, but there was a lot of hard conversations off air, you know, between us all. Like Will and I didn't speak for 2 years after the show finished. Because we processed everything that was going on and, you know, and then Woods was always kind of like the peacemaker, but Will and I are both big characters, you know, like we're both passionate, we're both opinionated, we both had mental health issues. So, yeah, like I learn a lot. I fucking have a lot of respect for majority of the people that I worked with and, you know, I'm so grateful for everything that I learned and that experience and that time. And, yeah, like there's times that I go, oh, I missed that. But, you know, I get to do stuff like this, come into podcast studios and just talk.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you've loved listening to the Srsly Podcast, we'd really appreciate a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify podcasts. It keeps us making incredible content for all of you to hear. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the honesty because any work in media is so hard.
Yeah.
And it's so underrated because like we're paid to make it look easy and fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what we
not.
Yeah, if it looked like we hadn't prepped our show and that we were having fun and we were pushing each other and boundaries and all that kind of stuff, then we were doing our job. You know, if people thought that we were like, you know, not planned and not, you know, doing all this stuff, that we were doing our job. And it's a lot of work behind the scenes, not just on preparing for a show, but like I said, the hard conversations between people and feelings and, you know, and that's like when ego's involved, it's tough.
It is. And this kind of leads to my next question.
Yes. Okay.
Why did you leave radio? What was your reasoning behind that?
Yeah. So I had Memphis. And
your baby boy?
Yeah, my baby boy.
He's actually 4.
Yeah, he's 4. So that was 4 years ago. And Will and Woody had left. And that time after Will and Woody leaving was really hard. Like the transition of them leaving and then bringing in a new show, like the bosses didn't run it very well. It was a bit of a shit show.
So were you having a show on your own?
No. So I had 2 other guys because that's what they do.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Yep,
and so it wasn't like the female, like that's what I mean. There's just so much politics. And I think I kind of lost my love. And then I was going through this transition of becoming a mum and like my body changing and I was this baby and I didn't know if I wanted to be a mum. And I was working with 2 guys that weren't Will and Woody, that didn't support me like they actually, you know, on air, and it became not really that fun anymore. And we got a new boss, and when I was off, you know, maternity leave, I said to Griffo one day, I was like, I don't know if I can go back. Like my anxiety had lessened. I was more at peace. Like I'd found, you know, when you work in the public eye and people do pedestal you, even though you don't want to be pedestaled, you kind of build up an armor. And my armor had finally kind of come down and I was connecting with people in a different way. My anxiety felt different. Felt like I was being me again.
And that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like crying.
Well,
gorgeous.
it was a really, because, you know, a lot of people I never shared a lot of that, but I didn't really have many friends when I was working in the media that I could trust, that I could hang out with, because I'd had this armor. I built this armor up, like that resilience had built armor because I had to be tough if people were going to, you know, all this stuff. And so when I had Memphis, that kind of disappeared. And whether that was because of having him leaving, like, you know, not putting that pressure on myself. And then, we had some really hard conversations and Griffo had quit his job and he'd come back to Perth to be the stay-at-home dad. Like it was we just bought a new house. Like it was really, really scary, like saying, I don't know. And like also taking a risk and not knowing if I was ever going to go back. And, you know, the grief that I went through. So, we made the choice and, finished up and didn't go back. And, that kind of then led me to writing my book and then starting my business and going on this massive self-discovery journey of like who I guess I really am without the radio show.
And you are an author.
Yeah.
And I just want to show everyone your book. Thank you so much. So Heidi has given me a copy.
Yay.
Drunk on Confidence. go and buy it.
Or you can get it on audiobook too. If you're one of those people that goes, I can't read.
Oh my God, I love both.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I read it to you as well. So if you've enjoyed me talking to you today, you can go listen to me.
That's so special. Can you tell me about the book?
Yeah. So the book is basically a journey from, being that anxious mess that, well, if you listen to me on, Bunbury back in the day on Hot FM, I declared on radio that I hated myself one day and it blew up like this.
I remember that.
Yeah. And
I actually remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
It went viral.
It went viral. It was the first kind of this movement around self-love and discovery. And I didn't know that I was going to write a book 10 years later. Like literally 10 years later, I wrote the book. And I'd been writing, I wrote for news.com and Perth Now and all that kind of stuff when I was kind of building my brand on breakfast radio. And I was just collating kind of the columns. And then just before I had Memphis, I'm like, I'm going to fucking birth a book. And Griffo was like, what? You're going to try and have a baby and write a book? I'm like, yes, I've been collecting it. And so it's kind of been 7 years in the making. And it's my story and it's like my truth. And it basically, you go from me declaring that I hate myself to now walking through shopping centres in my bra and undies with other women, empowering people, to basically shed their shit. Like, when you get down into your bra and undies, because for someone who hated themselves for so long when they looked in the mirror, avoided mirrors, all that kind of stuff, to now being able to I could strip off right now and it wouldn't have a problem.
Wow.
And because
That's
for
amazing.
me, it's this feeling like I can do fucking anything because, so what if you judge what I look like? At the end of the day, I've done the work and I'm okay with who I am and I accept where I'm at,
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's all about that kind of stuff. I guess it's, it is a memoir, but there is a lot of tips in there on how I overcame anxiety and, that self-hate and, kind of like takes you on that journey from, being lost and anxious and to, I guess, confident and self-assured.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to read it. And you have some big stars who have written on the back.
I know.
Narelda Jacobs,
yes.
Erin Molan.
Yes.
They're queens in the media.
Yeah.
Everyone knows them.
Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
Christian Hull, my mate, like he's got a testimonial in there and
my God.
Tanya Hennessy, like all people I worked with in radio.
I'm a big fan of Tanya.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, you've done so well and that's so exciting. So everyone go and buy Drunk on Confidence or listen to it. Where can they listen to it?
So you can listen to it. You can get it like Audible or whatever,
Spotify?
Spotify. Because you have to. Do you have to buy it to do the whole?
You have to have a premium.
Oh, okay. Well, if you've got premium, then I think maybe you could. I don't know. And then if you go into a bookstore and it's not there, this is what a lot of people don't know about when you're an author. Just ask them to order it in because that's like huge for like an author. Yeah.
Okay.
So if it's not in the bookstore that you want, just go in and say, hey, can you order this book in, and they'll get it straight in for you. That's like massive for an author.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Apart from being an author though,
yes,
you have a big history with reality TV.
Yeah.
That a lot of people do know you from Big Brother.
Yeah, well that was 2013, so 10 years this year. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So can you talk to me, how did Big Brother come up for you? Why did you do it? What was your experience like?
Yeah.
I know because I think I've seen it. Like I've seen clips of it.
Yeah.
That have resurfaced.
Yes, and you can watch it on YouTube
TikTok.
apparently. It resurfaced last year because 3 of the people from my season, Tim, Tully and Drew, were on the last season of Big Brother, like the reunion one.
Yeah, I know Tully.
Yeah,
she's nice.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but I remember seeing you on TikTok last year and I was like, is that Heidi? But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, someone tagged me and I was like, oh my God, I'm back, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an experience. And so I guess one of my things that I always wanted to do was, I guess, to be out there, like to be famous. And I remember seeing Sarah Marie on the very first season of Big Brother and she inspired me. Like she was the girl that for years I hadn't really seen anyone in the media that was like that bigger girl who has fun and funny and, that was celebrated. Like usually we were on the front, bigger girls were on the front of New Idea, like lose fucking 10 kilos, like, that era of like shaming women for their body size. And I was like, that looks so much fun. And I just always grew up in a small town in Bathurst. And I was like, just always had this thing of like, something's bigger out there for me. Like I loved entertaining people. I love being on stage. I love telling stories. And so I had this desire to go on Big Brother because she inspired me. And I remember I auditioned when I was like 18 or 19. And this is a story I haven't told actually ever.
Oh, okay.
But I was stoned when I auditioned with some of my friends, like classic Bathurst, like Bathurst fucking bogan. And I remember leaving the audition and my friends were like, how did you go? Like they were stoned on speed, like waiting out the front. And I was like, I totally fucked it. Like I was so paranoid and anxious and everything. And I look back and I'm like, if I went in there, I would have just been like an absolute shit show. Like, and so anyway, didn't get through, but I always then that desire just was always there. Like I wanted to audition. I auditioned when I was working in Bunbury at Hot FM, came up to Perth, got through to like round 3 or round 4, didn't get through. And that was when I made the decision. I was like, my radio career is more important. I'm going to focus on that. I don't need to worry about this bucket list thing that I want to do. Mm-hmm. So then I got a promotion, went to Newcastle, and I was on air. And that day the producers came in. We interviewed the producers of Big Brother and they were searching for this next season. And my mates on air, legends, Heath and Normie, they were like, okay, you need to tell them like your history and blah, blah, blah. And so I did. And they're like, off air, like, we need you to come and see us today. We want to put you in the house. We want you to audition. And then, I had to fully go, like, I've just got my dream job near my hometown, all this stuff. And then I've just been given this opportunity. Like I'd only been at the radio show like 6 weeks, this new show. And I went, shit, do I go? And then they're like, just go audition and then we'll use it for content if you don't get in. Mm-hmm. And so then I went through and all of a sudden I just had this gut feeling. I'm like, I'm going in the house. And went through the audition, had to the top 100, got the call, and then Gruffo and I just got together as well.
Oh, so you met over there.
Well, so we met in London. That you'll read that in the book, like years before, but we reconnected in Newcastle when I was living in Newcastle. And so, just everything kind of happened at once. And so when I went into the house, I had this I got a phone call from my boss in radio saying, we're going to send you to Perth as soon as you leave the house for your dream job in breakfast radio. And your new boyfriend's there, right? And I'm like, yeah. So everything was just lining up for me. So in the house, I'm like, fuck, this is boring. Like being in a house with that many people every day, it's so boring. Mm-hmm. Like, because you got to think there's only a certain amount they're using for TV a day, an hour, and you're not allowed to sleep. You're not allowed to do anything like in the middle of the day. It's just so strict. So I was actually quite bored. I wasn't making content. I wasn't doing all these things. And I'm like, I've got this dream life outside. So I was quite happy. I got evicted on day 43.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's a long time when you're not like always stimulated by conversation and your phones and people and news. And like, I came from a breakfast radio show where you're on every single morning, stimulated as fuck. Like, you're running a marathon every morning and then in there it's like, oh my God, is this it?
Oh God.
But then also the mind games, like being on with Tim, who won, the mind games for someone who was deeply insecure, anxious as fuck, hated the way that I looked in my body and there's mirrors and then people all around you talking. Like it was just a recipe for disaster for me. Like the anxiety monster was unleashed. But I didn't know how to express it. I didn't speak as openly as this because I didn't really know what was happening, and I had all these insecurities in my brain and wanted everyone to think that I was perfect and funny and confident when in fact I was the complete opposite.
Yeah, because then it came out in the media that actually you were super anxious and you struggled with anxiety and mental health after. Yeah. So how did that go down? And how did you know it was anxiety?
Well, I was actually diagnosed with anxiety in 2009 when I got home from overseas. Oh, yep. But then being that person who just, drank away their anxieties and, not really evolved, not really understanding my mental health, I thought go to 10 sessions with the psychologist, I'm fixed. I didn't read much more about my anxiety, didn't really want to understand it. Do you know what I mean? Like put that in the too hard basket. Yeah, whatever. Mm-hmm. Kept drinking, kept partying, kept smoking to make myself feel better. And, I was on a mission for my career, so I can't have that fucking, that shit come up. And then going into Big Brother, it kind of all came out. And then this new show in Perth, working with Will and Woods, it was it was a pressure cooking environment. And there was 6 weeks of absolute darkness where I was just dragging myself out of bed to go to the show. I was having panic attacks in the middle of the radio show. And then my boss said to me one day, do you want to talk about what's going on with your anxiety? I don't really understand it. And I know for me, it would be really helpful to understand what anxiety feels like. And I ended up writing a letter, basically, of what anxiety felt like. And it got published in my Perth Now column. And then I read that out on air, and that went viral because so many people felt seen. I'd finally said, like, this shit is fucking real. This is what's happening. And that moment hugely instigated the mental health journey that I went on, self-discovery, like, you know, finding, you know, all my people, like all the other anxious motherfuckers out there that overthink everything and, you know, and so, yeah, that's kind of how it, and, you know, then I became the voice, I guess, and, you know, a leader in the mental health space. So it was absolutely one of the most scariest things I ever did, like publicly saying, I'm not who you think I am. And, you know, I've got all this shit going on in my head, but I still get people stopping me on the street. Like I still get people sliding into my DMs saying that day I will never forget on air. Like it changed the game in radio as well. You know, like so many people are now openly talk about their mental health journey because we were able to lead like the Heidi and Woody show in those big conversations.
And back then it wasn't a thing to talk about.
No this was 2015.
Yeah, no one talked about it. And now anxiety is so spoken about. But back then it wasn't a thing at all.
No, and like even for me, like I've learnt so much, and I think this is the thing that I encourage people to do in, you know, in your self-discovery journey, and want people like, how did you get so confident in this? By having these conversations, by shedding my shit, by actually saying what was really going on in my head, and then, you know, talking it out, because then what happens is then you can have conversations with other people. You don't feel like you're so alone. You don't feel like you're the crazy fucking person with all this shit going on in your head. You feel seen, and then you find your people. And then you also, like, you know, I went to a psychologist, I've had coaches, I've experimented like with all different, you know, natural kind of ways to help with my anxiety. It actually just gave me this whole new world, really. And so that's what why I'm so passionate about sharing that with other people, because I think, you know, for so many of us, we suffer in silence because it's like, oh, we'll get judged for this shame and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's honestly been so, you know, like everything happens for a reason. I was on the Heidi and Woody show for a reason, went into the Big Brother house for a reason, and then it all kind of, you know, could openly speak about it. Like I wasn't ready to talk about it when I was on Big Brother, you know, like I was fully in it. And then I felt safe enough to talk about it on the radio show. And yeah, it's been life-changing.
How do you manage your anxiety now?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't experience it nearly as much. And it's because of the way I think understanding myself, not judging myself. I think so much of my anxiety was being critical of myself.
Yeah, the high expectations.
Because
you were in a high stress environment.
Yeah, and I still get in high stress environments, you know, with my performance and, you know, all the things that I do.
Yes.
But I know how to manage it. Like I go for a swim at the beach every single morning. You know, this morning I had a cold shower because I didn't get to the beach before I came here. I do breath work. I have a coach who is in my back pocket when I get triggered, or, you know, I'm not medicated for my anxiety at the moment, but I'm medicated for ADHD.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, which that's the first time I've said that out loud.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. We're very neurodiverse positive on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's amazing to even like, because a lot of people in my life also have ADHD and they're medicated. Yeah. Has that changed your life?
Yeah. So that is something I haven't actually talked about because for me, it's not this is where and this is me being completely open and vulnerable. I am scared to share my ADHD journey because everyone's sharing their ADHD journey at the moment, that I don't want to influence people to think that they've got it just by saying what I've got and because I know, do you know what I mean? Like when people started talking about it, everyone felt seen. It was awesome. And there's so many people, but I want people to be able to go on their own journey. Do you know what I mean? Like it's this.
But doctors will only diagnose people who actually have it.
Yeah,
I know. They're not going to just give people medication.
No, but I know like,
what you mean,
do you know what I mean? Like so it's this thing, and it's maybe me just coming to that place of acceptance as well. I'm still in that. So when I first started the meds a year ago, literally a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really fought it, and my whole body fought it. I didn't sleep for the first 3 months of this year. Like, didn't sleep. Like, I was the Dexies and everything that I was on.
Is it dexamphetamine?
Yeah, that's what. So I tried a whole bunch of different ones, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't remember all the the technical stuff. But and I'm just speaking into my journey, and that's why I'm very cautious of what I say and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't sleep for like the first 3 months, and my whole body was fighting it. Anyway, with my psychiatrist, he's like, there's a small percentage of people that get like an adrenaline hit, a second adrenaline hit, and that was happening to me at nighttime.
Oh God!
So I was like cool in the day, and then all of a sudden, bang! I'd get this like fucking massive adrenaline hit at nighttime when I'm a 7 p.m. bed kind of girl.
Oh really?
Yeah, me and Griffo go to bed so early, and we wake up early. So I'm not getting to bed till 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Like, these are like my party days in London, and with drugs that are prescribed, not
legal.
Yeah, actually legal. And so I went on this journey, and I really fought it. And then I ended up stopping for a couple of months, and then I came to a place of acceptance maybe about 6 months ago, and I was like, why don't you just try the Ritalin that and the psychiatrist had given me a certain dosage and blah, blah, blah. And I did, and I stopped fighting it, like physically stopped fighting it, mentally stopped fighting it, and I accepted it. And it's actually been life-changing. So
congratulations. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
That you're embracing it. And it's like when you realise that you're neurodiverse, you become so self-aware of your own triggers.
Yes.
Like the sensory and things that trigger us that are more triggering than neurotypical people.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it's just that acceptance journey of, and maybe it was that I didn't want to be, like some people that have spoke about it, which is awesome, have become, that voice, and I've been there with that anxiety. And I was like, I don't know if I want to be that again. Do you know what I mean? If I share it publicly.
Because it's very raw.
Yes.
And it's very deep, and it can be dark.
Yeah.
And then you have to revisit it every day, rehash it. Like, people come up to you on the street and you're like, maybe I don't want to talk about it today.
Yeah. And it's the trauma side as well. Like that, so, and this is like a lot of the stuff that I've been diving into is it's like, trauma and ADHD, apparently it's like they can mirror each other. So that was like, I had to go through the process of like, is this trauma or is this ADHD?
Interesting.
And like I said, I don't want to go too much into that, and that's why I feel like I'm not confident in speaking down that road. Do you know what I mean? But I've read a lot, and my mum's gone through the same process, and we've been on the journey and that together. And so I think, like I said, for me, it was like, well, I don't know, what do I say? Like, and then so I've dealt with going through trauma from my past, and so it's been a ride.
Wow. Well done for speaking about it.
Well,
publicly.
thanks. Like, this is the first time, so
we're really
I must
grateful.
have felt safe.
Oh, we're very grateful.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I want to talk about something a bit different.
Yeah. I know, we've been deep, girl.
We've been very deep on this pod, but that's why people come on here to get behind the brand.
Love it.
Who they are. I want to talk about relationships. So you're married.
Yes.
How long have you been married for?
5 years.
And how'd you meet?
So, okay, we've been married 5 years, been together 10, but we met, I think it was about 14, 15 years ago in London. You'll find this story in the book, but I'll give you the hot scoop. I was doing a poo in our house in London and there was a whole bunch of us. It was a party house, and one of his best friends was living with me, and I'd never met Griffo, and I was in this secret poo toilet at our house, and he got off the tube and his friend was like, oh yeah, just use that toilet there, not knowing I was in there. And Griffo walked in and was like, oh, sorry. And I was like, oh, hi, like I'm doing a poo.
And that's the most romantic story I've ever heard.
But then the thing is, if you meet Griffo, once he starts talking, he doesn't stop.
Oh, is he talkative?
Oh my God. But useless information a lot of the time. Like, he'll give you
That's all men. Babe.
Yeah. He gives you the details that don't matter. You know, so he told me literally about his day from start to finish. He stood there for 10 minutes in the doorway talking to me.
Oh, I love that.
Like, because he
so
just,
sweet.
yeah. And then that night we ended up pashing, and then other stuff happened. Like, I ended up meeting this other guy, and then he came back to our house and I was with someone else. And then that was kind of it. And then we stayed friends. And then we just stayed in contact. We've actually gone back and looked through our messages, and one of his messages to me after our kiss was that he'd gone off to America to see this girl that he really liked, and she'd hurt him and broken his heart. And I was like, don't worry, I'll marry you one day. Yeah, I know, right? And then it was just
Psychic.
like, yeah. And then I went off and did my radio stuff, and then it would just so happened that we went to one of our our mutual best friend's 30th birthday in Port Macquarie. And he got off the plane and I was like, damn, I've never thought he's sexy before. And he had his long, luscious, like Fabio hair. And I remember he got off the plane and I was like, he is hot. But I didn't think anything of it. I was on a man band, and then we ended up hooking up that night and had sex in a spa. And then we've been together ever since.
Man band was done.
Man band, but I'm glad I went on it, because if I didn't go on the man band, maybe he would have just been a bit of something on the side.
What do you love about him? Like, what compliments him to you?
I wrote about that as well, and I think probably he grounds me, and he actually unconditionally loves me for who I am.
Oh, my God, that's beautiful.
Just doesn't ever want to change me. Like,
Yep.
I think as a lot of women, not to put us all in the same spot. Oh, you're crying?
No, I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm very emotional.
Oh,
sorry.
no, don't apologise.
That's just really nice, because it's hard to find.
Well, and I think, like I said, a lot of women, we try and change men, and for good reasons sometimes. I've definitely tried to change Griffo, still do sometimes. But he never, ever has he ever. He always has loved every single part of me and aspect, and championed everything that I've done. And he's a fierce protector of our family. And, his journey into parenthood hasn't been easy. Like, he's struggled. And, I still see him show up for us, even in those darkest times. He pushed through because the love is so strong, and he's so loyal, and he's fucking funny. Like, he's actually very witty, and we have the funniest jokes, but sometimes it goes over people's heads because it's too witty but also a bit crass. It's crass witty.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so much about him that I love. And like I said, he's just loved loves every single part of me. And yeah, we're a team, and there's some days that are really hard in marriage and parenthood and all that. But we always come back to choosing each other.
And you have a beautiful 4-year-old called Memphis.
Yes.
He's the cutest baby I've ever seen. I
Do you
call him a
reckon?
baby. Yes, he's so cute.
Oh my God, he's
like blonde curly hair.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
He's very funny too.
Is he?
Yeah, he's very in tune.
And so did you always want a kid?
No.
Both of you?
He wanted 3, Griffo wanted 3, and I didn't know if I wanted to have kids.
Oh, really? So you didn't have that maternal urge? So
No.
how did that come to be?
Didn't really come, except for it's this thing. I didn't feel like I was ever put on earth to be a mum of heaps of kids. I've never felt that. Mm-hmm. You know how I was literally speaking to one of my best friends today. She hasn't had kids yet, and she knows that that's all she wants.
Yeah, I'm like that.
Yeah. Whereas I have not had that. I never got that biological, I'm 30, quick, I need to pump out the kids. Mm-hmm. I feel that a little bit now,
interesting.
because I've had Memphis and I know I'm meant to be his mum. But yeah, I feel that now, and I'm 40 next year, and Griffo doesn't know if he wants to have another child. He's pretty certain he doesn't want have another child. But I'm going through this thing of is this my yearning to have this next child because of society, because you're supposed to have 2 kids and all this shit? Or is it that that biological clock is really you better fucking have this kid. You're desperate to have this kid, So I'm kind of in that space, because I always my career, everything and I love my passions. I want to change the world. If I have all these kids, I don't know if I can do that, because they need you. And I've been able to give Memphis, I've been able to meet so many of his needs because it's just been me and him. And I've loved that. But I don't know if I can give that to another child. So there's all these things,
And you did make headlines about this topic.
Yeah.
All over Australia recently. You went viral because, as you were saying, Griffo, your husband, isn't sure if he wants another baby.
Yeah.
You do. How do you navigate that in marriage?
You started on your podcast. We literally
have a podcast called First Time
Parents, and we've recorded it since Memphis was a week old. And, you know, we had a bit of time off there when, you know, marriage was rocky and being parents and finding ourselves and that kind of stuff. And then we brought it back with we went through relationship coaching on our last season, and we openly talk about this stuff because you think like there's so much tension in a conversation like this. Like straight away, if your husband's telling you he doesn't want to have another kid, like you want to shut down, right? Like you want to fucking scream. But then he also is like, well, fuck you. You can't make me do this. Like, do you know what I mean? Like there's
so much tension.
So much tension. And then like you don't really hear why the other person feels this way. You don't want to ask. We're not bred to have communication. Like, so why don't you want to? Like, do you know what I mean? Straight away you go into that like fierce protection of like, but this is what I really truly desire. And so this podcast has been life-changing for us because we've sat in the conversations. We've actually had to navigate hearing each other, feeling each other. And, you know, I totally understand where he's at, why he doesn't want another one. Like I totally get it. Whereas
why is that?
He just genuinely doesn't want to be a parent again, go through it. Like he financially, emotionally, like just he does not feel like he genuinely feels within his whole body that he's done. And, you know, there was a lot of stress and that at the start, like leaving radio, money, like so many things like as a new parent. And we talk about all that on our podcast. But, yeah, he's just like I physically, you know, for XYZ am done. Like he didn't have the connection with Memphis that I had, you know, and a lot of guys don't. A lot of guys do as well though.
Yeah.
And mums don't always necessarily have the connection either. And he's had to work really hard at it. And, you know, and I think like when the mental health side of it too, like he, you know, that's for men, like talking about that, it's a pretty big deal.
It is. They don't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And he held a lot of resentment. You know, and that a lot of guys don't talk about that.
Resentment towards you, like
Memphis,
bonding.
because our whole lives changed. Right. And, you know, so then you start to resent your child, but because they don't know how to express them, a lot of us don't know how to express ourselves. We're all learning, you know, especially this like generation. And so, yeah, he's had to like really sit in some really uncomfortable feelings. And then like I've had this desire, but like the funny thing is when I had Memphis straight after, I was like, I'm one and done.
Really?
Yeah. And it's only just been the last, you know, and so this is why I think that we're allowed to evolve and we're allowed to change our mind. You know, but a lot of people go like, oh, you know, and being able to sit with Griffo and also just realize like that maybe this is our journey and I'm not going to run, you know.
Okay.
Memphis and Griffo are enough. They are enough. And if they're not, like, well, why? And I've had to ask myself that, like, why? What is it that what needs am I trying to meet within myself? And what am I, you know, I've had to have some big conversations, lots of healing, releasing, like somatic work. Like I've done a lot. And, you know, I come back to like, is it truly what I want? You know, like if I want to have these big goals and want Memphis to be fully like, you know, his needs met. Because when you have another child, they're not met. Like, you know, you're spreading it. So there's only one of me and I'm spreading myself. And I'm reading this amazing book at the moment. It's called One and Only. And she talks about all this research that she's done about kids and like, you know, the social conditioning. Because most people say, oh, your child will be so spoiled. Like Memphis will be so lonely. What about when you and Griffo get old? Like he's just going to be there on his own. Who's going to look after you? Like shit like that. This is what people say. And so reading this book was really eye-opening on, you know, understanding only children and so it's, I don't know, I just trust that this is our journey. For some reason we're the chosen ones that blurted it out and chose to do it on a podcast. And, you know, we've had so many incredible messages of people saying thank you, like you actually have changed our lives and our marriage and, you know, open up so many doors and conversations. And because I think no one talks about how hard it is when one person says they want a kid and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, invariably, like you wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. So, yeah, we shared it on our podcast.
Thank you for being so honest.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a ride, let me tell you. And if I haven't got a coach, or like if I didn't have a coach or was doing breath work or knew how to support myself, I don't know if I'd be able to do it, you know?
Yeah. No, good on you. I'll probably message you when I'm getting married.
Yeah.
Just for some relationship advice.
Yes.
I find relationships so hard already, let alone those big conversations.
Should we bring Tyler on? Do we want to do like relationship therapy coaching?
Oh, hey, I've already asked him. He said no.
Oh, so good.
So funny. Well, Heidi, you've been an amazing guest. I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah, give it to me.
What is next for you?
Oh, God, I don't know. I'm currently going through a lot of, I feel like a huge level up. I mean, you know, like I said, when you go through stuff that we've been going through this year, like you can't help but evolve and change and grow and have all this shit that goes on within you internally. And so like I've got all these exciting things happening in my business, but my big vision is I've launched these shows in Perth we're calling them the shit shows, because like life is a shit show. Like what I've spoke to you about today, like you can't say that's not a shit show, you know? Like literally I met my husband in the toilet, like, but you know, so I've started these, it's called Empowerment Stand Up. And my vision is to take these on the road. And it's like, think about like you go to a comedy club and have like an open mic night. So at these shit shows, it's like getting people like you or whoever has it, like everybody has a story, to get up and do empowerment stand up. And so instead of like comedy stand up, like I'm so funny, like it's empowerment stand up, telling empowering stories. And so my hope, or I am, whatever I want to do with my, you know, is to take that on the road. And
amazing.
Yeah.
I'll see you next Friday.
I know, you're going to be there.
Thank you for having me.
Yay, thank you.
Well, thanks, Heidi. You've been an amazing guest.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate everything that you shared today.
Thank you.
And it's going to touch a lot of people, so thank you.
Thanks. Awesome. It was a ride. Woo.
Woo. Thank you guys for tuning into Seriously this week, and we'll see you next week for another guest. Bye.
Bye.